The Fantasy Fanatics Podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.
I was walking down the street when out the corner of my eye I saw a pretty little thing.
Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky. And again, the name is subject to change, and it's 100% guaranteed that it will change for the new year. So
that's right. Yes, this technically will be our last show of 2014. It's also our last show with the Fantasy Fanatics name, just because fantasy sports are really dying down, especially towards the winter times.
Then we talk more about Chicago sports.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as fantasy right now. I mean, you just got fantasy basketball going on, and that's the hardest of the three to talk about for sure. And then fantasy baseball doesn't start for another few months. So, yeah, we're going to be changing the name for our next show, which I believe is January 2nd.
Something around there.
January 2nd, 2015. It's a week from today, I believe. So, yeah. This is Fantasy Fanatics right now, and we were talking about the Bears and possible coaching options for the Bears.
I would love if they were to lure Todd Bowles away from Arizona as their because he's their defensive coordinator. And
yeah, he's done a nice job.
He's done an amazing job. I mean, they made him the highest paid defensive coordinator with a big extension during the season this year. I would love to have Todd Bowles. I mean, you've got a good enough if he can granted, the defense might not be as good as the Cardinals' defense because they have literally no talent on that defense.
That's
true.
And
the little talent they have is a bunch of old guys that are underperforming for their salary.
Right, but the thing is,
other than Willie Young,
if you could play like the Cardinals' defense, I know you're not going to be as good, but if you can play like them and have the same schemes and do some of the same things, you're already going to be improved.
Or if you get rid of Mel Tucker.
Well, that's the first step.
Defense, let's stand 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage so that they can pick up third and 26. I mean, come on. How can you be that stupid play up on your guy? And how about we get competent safeties?
Right.
Competent safeties. This is Chris Conte does not know what he's doing, and the fact that they say they're better with him on the field than off the field says how bad every single safety on that team is. I mean, granted, Ryan Mundy's done a pretty nice job, except he can't do it alone.
Yeah, he's done a pretty good job. Obviously, he can't do it alone, like you said. I'm kind of interested because obviously, no matter how bad we don't want to watch the Bears game, we're still going to watch the Bears game on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely, we will be watching the Bears game, and I'm actually wondering how many times they're going to show Mark Trestman on the sideline, because I'm actually wondering that because he's probably, in my opinion, he's the number one coaching candidate in the NFL to get fired.
Oh, well, either him or Jim Harbaugh, because everyone says Jim Harbaugh is going to go to Michigan. The thing is,
Jim Harbaugh didn't even do a bad job. The 49ers fans are just punching their balls because Colin Kaepernick is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL.
I know, it's kind of interesting because a few years ago you got rid of Alex Smith. Everyone on the 49ers was all on board with that. All the 49ers fans, get rid of Alex Smith. Colin Kaepernick's the future. Now you're seeing how that turned out.
I kept saying that's a bad move. Smith's going to be better than Kaepernick. I mean, Kaepernick had no scouting report. There was no scouting report on him. What do you expect when you got some guy that can run too? I mean, granted, he probably could tear up Green Bay every time, except no, I don't think he would. I think Aaron Rodgers would dominate the 49ers now.
Yeah, if the 49ers and Packers were playing in the playoffs this year, I would definitely think the Packers would win that easily.
Yeah, and another thing. Another reason, the number one reason the 49ers don't deserve to be in the playoffs this year is because they lost to the Bears.
Right, and that's
if you lose to the Bears, you do not deserve to be doing anything. Granted, Atlanta might make the playoffs, except they lost to the Bears. How do you lose to the Bears?
Don't forget, a little later on, we will do our picks for the final week. This is our last week of doing we can pick for the...
Yeah, there's no Thursday night game.
The playoffs and stuff. But,
we'll just give you a sneak preview and say I don't think anyone's picking the Bears.
I agree with that. I'm not picking the Bears, but this is going to be interesting because whoever wins this game...
I want them to lose.
...is going to finish in third place.
Because, if the Bears lose, they have the 7th pick in the draft next year. If they win this game...
That's pretty good.
If they win this game, they'll probably have something around the 14th pick.
Yeah, and, I can't believe that if the Bears win this game, after all the things that they've been through this season, they won't finish in last place in that division.
Yeah, and
if they win this game, they're gonna finish above the Vikings, which is just sad.
The funny thing is, if they lose this game and then Mark Trestman gets fired, the only division games that they will have won under Mark Trestman are they won 2 home games against Minnesota that were both one-score games.
Yes.
And then he was able to beat Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers and Jay Cutler.
Yep, and that was up in Lambeau.
Yeah, that says a lot. You're able to beat. Oh, yeah, Mark Trestman's such a great coach. He was able to beat Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers. Well, I'm sure Jay Cutler could have won that game, too. Although that's a big stretch right there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sad that if the Bears win one more game, they won't finish in last place in that division.
And they won't even get a top 10 pick. If they win, they do not get a top 10 pick.
Yeah, that won't be good either because, everyone was expecting, the positive to come out of this is like, okay, we'll get a good draft pick. But
the only negative, though, is that they played so bad and they somehow won 5 games.
Yeah, well, that's the Bear way. That's the Bears way.
Think about the teams they beat, though. They beat Tampa Bay, who's just awful.
They beat a bad Atlanta team.
That was back when Julio and Roddy White were both playing injured, and the offensive line they didn't really have.
Does Atlanta have the same record as the Bears, or do they have one more win than the Bears?
They have 6 wins.
6 wins, and the Bears have 5.
Yeah,
okay.
And that Atlanta team, that was probably their lowest point in the season because they didn't know they were juggling around offensive linemen. They've gotten that straightened out now.
And it's funny because that was the highest point in the Bears season, I think, was that nice win against Atlanta. And then the Bears beat Minnesota before they beat Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that was a 1-score win against Minnesota at home, and then they beat the lowly Jets.
They beat the Jets and 49ers in weeks 2 and 3.
And do you know the Bears, after having the number 2 scoring offense in the NFL last year, they had 0 games this year with 30 points.
Are they last in offense this year, or are they close to last?
No, they're not close. I don't think they're close to last. They're probably like 20th or something.
Okay.
Because they still score a lot. They still score some points. They have their highest output has been the 27 points against the Jets, and in that game they had a pick 6.
They did have a pick 6. I remember that.
Ryan Mundy on the first play of scrimmage for the Jets. Geno Smith fired a pick 6 to Mundy. I think that's their only defensive touchdown of the year.
I would have to agree with that. I can't think of anything else I can't think of any other things. I wonder. I don't know who the Bears are going to get as far as a coach. But whoever it is has to be an improvement. I think it's going to be an improvement. It just, it sort of has to because I don't think it can get as bad as it did with Mark Trestman.
All right, well, as long as they don't hire another moron from the CFL, I think we'll be good.
Yeah, it might take a couple years to get things figured out, but depending on who on offense they keep, this team could be competitive in the near future. Not next year, I don't think. Because you still have the Packers and Lions, and the Vikings are on the up with Teddy Bridgewater. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't see how any of those teams are going to be worse than the Bears. The only difference that I could see in the Bears season, there's no way. I know we said it last year. There's no way the defense could get any worse. Except this is really the lowest any defense in NFL history could possibly get right now.
Right.
They has to make at least minor, very minimal improvements. Maybe it'll be in the middle between as bad as last season and as bad as this season. Maybe it'll make that improvement at least. Really the main improvement would be having a coaching staff for Jay Cutler. Granted, it's like, it should be on the quarterback. Well, he had the worst coaching staff in the NFL. What's he supposed to do when that coaching staff doesn't, discipline guys, or they tell him he did a great job or had a great practice when it wasn't a good practice, or when you make no adjustments. You don't make any adjustments.
None.
Mark Trestman didn't even make any adjustments when they were down 42-0 at halftime against Green Bay.
I know. That's very, very sad, obviously. Because you go in there down 42-0 and you don't change a thing. At least it didn't look like they changed.
The only thing that changed from halftime to the second half was Green Bay benching Aaron Rodgers.
Right, and that was a smart move by them. There's no point to play him when you're already getting...
I don't know. I kind of wish that they would have rubbed it in and let Aaron Rodgers set the NFL record for passing touchdowns in a game.
Oh, I'm sure he would have said it, too.
At the time, I didn't want him to, so going back and thinking about that game needed to be even worse than it was. I wish Rodgers would have gotten to 8, threw 2 touchdowns in the second half, and he would have set the record with 8.
And after this update, we will talk about the NFC North crown as the Packers and Lions fight it out. Whoever loses will be a wild card. Whoever wins will win that division. So that'll be exciting. We'll talk about that right after this update. Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
You can follow us on Twitter at Ryan Stuprich.
At rrisky16.
And you can call the show 630-403-5200, 630-403-5200. We're going to talk...
Whoa. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, what's up?
Alex Smith is out this weekend against the Chargers.
Ooh, that's...
lacerated spleen. That's a killer to their playoff hopes.
That is. Because I think... Well, now let's see. If Kansas City wins that game... Do they take the Chargers' spot for the wild card?
Yeah, I believe so.
And if the Chargers win, they solidify their wild card spot. Okay.
If the Chargers win, they're in the playoffs. That's a killer. Well, maybe the only upside to that is for the Kansas City wide receivers. Maybe one of them will catch a touchdown pass this year.
Hey, I think you got the best chance right now to do that, right? I mean... It's going to be interesting to see what happens in that Kansas City-San Diego game, but I don't know. I don't know what to think. It's tough.
Even if they win this game and make the playoffs, Smith's out for 6 weeks.
Yeah, so I mean that's going to be very hard for them to win regardless. If you don't have Alex Smith, and I'm not sure who their second string is.
His name is Chase Daniel. He's a 6-year veteran.
All right. Well, since he's a veteran, he might be able to do some things.
Like throw a touchdown pass to a wide receiver.
Yeah. You'll have to tune in to our next segment to listen to who we pick for that game.
But Browns announced Connor Shaw as their starting quarterback.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're just cashing it in for the rest of the season.
and the Cardinals confirmed that Ryan Lindley will start again.
Right. I did hear. I heard Drew Stanton might be back for the playoffs.
Yeah, they said he will be back. They said they're just holding him out since they're already in. Keenan Allen is doubtful. That's really
because
too bad.
I mean, I feel a lot. If I'm a Cardinals fan, I feel really. I feel pretty good if Drew Stanton is in rather than Ryan Lindley, obviously. So
I would, Ryan Lindley.
Okay, so good. Before we go to our final break, let's talk about that NFC North real quick as the Lions and Packers fight for that NFC crown. Of course, it's in Lambeau, so the Packers will have an advantage. Who do you think is going to win that game, though?
Green Bay.
So you think the Packers are going to win, then they will win the division. I'm going to be rooting for the Lions as much as I hate the Lions and the Packers both. I hate the Packers a little more. But, I think I'm going to be rooting for the Lions.
The Lions are full of scumbags. They don't deserve to win that crown, that NFC North crown, because, right. I mean, did you see it? Raiola just intentionally stomped on Ferguson's
I know. It was
foot.
awful. It was awful.
I mean, that was so uncalled for. It's just and you thought that maybe it was just a Jim Schwartz thing, except maybe it wasn't just Jim Schwartz. It's just the players are just morons. I mean, I can't stand that. I wish they weren't making. I'd rather Green Bay win it than them, just because of how undisciplined they are and how classless they are.
That's true. I mean, I will give the Packers. The Packers are a pretty classy organization, and they. I can respect how they play the game.
Yeah. How often do you see in a Bear-Packer matchup, how often do you see a Packers player getting into it with a Bears guy? Never.
Yeah, not at all.
Where Detroit guys, they just go and stomp on people's legs, stomp on a guy's head. Like, remember when Ndamukong Suh did that to the Packers offensive lineman?
Yes, I remember that.
I remember Detroit would have won that game if he didn't do that, because they sacked Aaron Rodgers and it was 4th down, and then that gave him an automatic 1st down inside the 5.
Right, and that pretty much sealed the deal right there.
Yes. I just don't like Detroit. I mean, I hate Green Bay because I hate Detroit and Green Bay for different reasons.
Right.
And I hate Detroit. I just can't stand them the way they think they can just go and walk over people and injure them like that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a close game, like a well-fought game, because, the Lions are a pretty good team this year. So,
did you watch them against the Bears, though? They looked like they didn't even care.
Oh, I know.
They won.
They tried to give the game away, but I think a lot of that
almost lose.
But I think a lot of that was just sort of, we're playing the Bears. We're not going to necessarily, go all out to beat them. But
Stafford was horrible, though.
Stafford was pretty bad. I've never been a big fan of him anyway.
End zone picks against the Bears, I don't think they've had a game this year with 2 interceptions.
The Fantasy Fanatics Podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.